Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your patience. Welcome to this press conference with Dean Elgar. As usual, I would like to remind everyone to please put their requests on the chat panel so that we can be able to take it from there. And also a reminder, please, to keep your monitors muted, particularly when you're not asking a question, just so that we don't struggle with sound. Who would like to go first with Dean? Thanks, Leighton, followed by Colin, and then Stephen.
Morning, Dean. Just in terms of waiting, your beard's considerably more grey than the last time we saw you. Is it good to know that you're finally getting on a plane and going over?
Yeah, thanks for the noticing my my change. I'm going to call it wisdom and knowledge. Nothing to do with the job, but I think I might be a little bit whiter after my 2-year appointment. But yeah, back to your question. I think we're all pretty excited to finally be back to playing cricket again. I mean, it's been such an up and down kind of period for all of us. I think as players, we've been quite frustrated by having kind of limited access to be able to play international cricket again. But yeah, nonetheless, we're still very excited and keen to get going, irrespective of where we're going. Yeah, whether we're in a bubble or not, we're still very excited for the up and coming series.
Colin?
Hi, Dean. Congratulations and good luck with your captaincy.
Thanks, Colin.
It's been 11 years since South Africa last played a test in the West Indies, and obviously none of your current team have played there. Have you been to the West Indies in any capacity at all, and what do you expect there?
Yeah, thanks, Colin. I was there, I think in 2016, we played a triangular when I was still part of the white ball side. We played Australia, West Indies, South Africa triangular. But I didn't play any games, but obviously I got to see what the kind of conditions were. It was obviously a different venue. From my knowledge and my reading and hearing what our management have come up with already, it seems like St. Lucia is quite a low and slow kind of place with regards to the wicket. Which is obviously something that we've been preparing already with our camp that we started yesterday. So yeah, I think a big factor for me is going to be the adaptation factor once we get there and once we actually allowed to leave the hotel and start training as a group. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge for all of us going forward. But I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be ready to go once we start the series. I know there's going to be a lot of emphasis going forward with regards to preparation. That's the one thing we can control, at least, is the way we prepare going into the series.
Okay, maybe a quick follow-up. So you have to actually stay in the hotel for some days. How many days before you can actually get out and train there?
I think it's a 4-day process. I think we have a 3-day quarantine where we have to have 2 COVID tests leading up to day 4. I think once you return your 2 negative tests, you're allowed to leave the hotel and go practice. I think that's pretty much why we're leaving at the time period we are leaving, just to give us a bit more, a few more days that we can obviously adhere to the quarantine regulations and respect the processes that they've obviously put in place for us.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Colin.
Just to add to that, Colin, it'll be 3 days hard lockdown in the rooms, and then day 4, if everyone is negative, everyone can then begin training. And then after that, after day 7, then everyone can basically roam around the hotel and start living pretty much normally. But after day 4, the team will still be confined to their rooms. So Stephen, up next.
Hi, Dean. As Colin said, congratulations and good luck for the first series. Something I think we can all agree on is that talent has never been an issue with South Africa, but maybe in the last couple of months, maybe the mental game becoming quite tough. Do you think, as someone who's always been so good mentally and so mentally tough, do you think that's one of the biggest things you can bring to the team as captain?
I think so. I think it's also just trying to change players' mindsets going forward. I think that's one of the challenges when you got 18 different individuals to deal with is to try and get that buy-in from every individual, and obviously trying to get them to trust your process going forward. It's kind of a tough thing when you have to work with different individuals with different mindsets and different opinions. So yeah, I also hope that what I've done in the past would also rub off on the players now. And yeah, it's definitely going to be one of the more challenging aspects of the job. It's just to try and get the trust of the players that they can just rely and trust that the process and the words and the communication that I'm putting out to them, that they can obviously follow that.
Fidos, followed by Telford and then Kanyiso.
Thanks, Sibukazi. Sorry, can I just check before I ask my question? Will there be any training in those first 4 days as a group or not?
There'll be no training.
No, 3 days.
In the first 3 days, there'll be no training.
On day 4, we're allowed to leave and train.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Hi, Dean. While you guys are over there, the World Test Championship final will be played, and I guess, this time South Africa have missed out and are quite far down the rankings, but I'm sure you're aiming to get to that at some point. If you are to think now, like from the starting blocks, what's the biggest challenge in terms of getting there, just knowing what the schedule's like and where the team is at?
Yeah, it's a tough one for those. We haven't played a lot of cricket in the last while. So from a competitive point of view, it was quite kind of difficult for us to get a process going forward as a team. Now that we're almost in like a new chapter, we obviously need to play more cricket and we need to play better cricket. We're very conscious that over the last period, we haven't been very consistent. Our skill level hasn't been where it should be. Ultimately, yes, we want to compete and we want to play in a final of a World Test Championship. I think that's pretty much high on my bucket list. But I understand there's a way there's a way and a process that you got to follow. In order to do that, we need to get back to a bit more of a consistent nature of cricket, a bit more of a South African way again. And obviously trusting the process that we have to follow. It's also another challenging aspect to get players to actually believe in the process and actually kind of do it quickly and adapt quickly. So yeah, it's something that I'm very strong. I believe very strongly in is for us to follow the process and us trying to climb up that rankings system again. Because where we are at the moment is obviously not doing us a lot of favors, and it's not a good visual for a lot of us. We're very conscious and aware of that for those, and I'll do everything in my power that I have within the team to try and get us up the rankings and obviously contending for that spot again.
Telford?
How's it, Dean? Good luck over there. We saw with the end of last season, a lot of players were missing, specifically from the white ball stuff, and it made a big impact. Just how much is it going to be? I don't simply want to say how welcome are you going to make those people like Quinton de Kock coming back, but from a mental point of view, it must give you satisfaction as a captain to know that you are going in with your full strength side. Definitely,
Telford. Those players are so valuable for us. Unfortunately, I think the demand around world cricket for them is also quite great. And to have them back in your test setup, which for me is it's an extremely important setup for all formats. To have them around and their knowledge is something that I won't be able to replicate. We don't have a lot of experience floating around, so those players are massive for an environment going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Dean, and good morning to everyone. It's a short twofold question. Have you guys, first and foremost, vaccinated for COVID-19? And secondly, do you feel that this is a new page for you as a captain and the team, considering that you're the only player, I could be wrong, who remains from the Graham Smith captaincy era?
Just to touch on your first part, I'm here to answer cricketing questions, please. So if you can respect the forum as just cricketing questions, I'd appreciate that. And back to your second question, what was that?
I was asking that, do you feel that this is a new page from a cricket perspective for you, because you're the only player who's remaining from Graham Smith's captaincy era as a player?
You're making me sound old now. Well, I must say in that era, it was totally different to what it is now. We had a lot of experience and we had a lot of test caps around then. And my learnings out of that, I would like to try and use and implement in the current situation where we are now, which is going to be a good challenge for me. It's something that I'm really looking forward to. So I mean, my learnings out of that and the quality conversations I've had with Graham over the years, I'd like to see that as a massive positive for us going forward. And I think if I don't use that knowledge and the chats that I've had, I'm going to let this environment down. So yeah, I'd like to see the period that I've spent in that time and even the years after that has molded me and taught me a lot of good lessons that I obviously have to filter into this group now.
Nick?
Morning, Dean. Congrats to you. You spoke earlier about getting back to the South African way of playing. What does that mean to you?
Look, we've always been the nature of with our fast bowlers. We've always had a batting lineup that scored heavily with regards to runs. So I think that's basically the South African way for us. We need to get back to scoring big hundreds for us again. We need to get back to taking fifers like it used to be, something that we were accustomed to growing up, something that was a rich culture and a rich success for cricketers growing up. And yeah, I'd like to see us just get back to those ways, scoring runs again, taking 20 wickets to win a test. That's what made us successful in the past. And I mean, there's great references that I was able to play with and watch when I was younger. And we know that we need to get back to those kind of old South African characteristic ways.
I'll go with Stuart, who hasn't asked a question yet, and then we'll go back to one or two more guys. Stuart, you can go.
Cool. Morning, Dean. Thanks, Sips. Just on the way selection works, Dean, how much say do you have in the selection of the squad? And how much say do you have in the final 11 that you will, the other 10 players that will go with you onto the field? How much say do you have in that? How does that process work, and how do you feel about the way the process works, whatever it may be?
Morning, Stu. Yeah, I think when it comes to selection, it's quite a tough one. As a captain, you maybe don't want to have too much say, because players might think you don't like them if you don't put them in your side or squad, for instance. But I do have a little bit of say. I work hand in hand with Mark with regards to that. He maybe asks my advice and he asks my input on certain players because I've maybe seen them in the domestic game. And then obviously he takes the references to the selectors, and they ultimately have to make the final say. With regards to the final 11, I think it will work in a similar kind of process where I'll give my input of what I would like. And then he'll obviously take it back to the selectors and tell them this is what Dean wants, this is what he's looking for. And ultimately, I'm pretty sure they'll finalize the final 11 out of the info that we give them.
Cool.
Percival?
Hi, good morning, Dean. Morning, Sipakazi, colleagues. Sipakazi, I just want to ask a logistic question before I ask my question to Dean. Sipakazi, I tend to agree with Colin and Kaniso. Can CSA for us answer that question that Kaniso asked about the vaccination, please? I think it's quite an important issue, as much as the captain can't answer that question. And secondly, can I just ask you, when exactly are you guys leaving, though? So Dean, I wanted to ask you as the captain, you mentioned earlier that you're hoping to get the buy-in from all the players. Obviously, you've got a lot of leadership in your squad as well. Have you guys trained here on local ground so far, this past few days now? And what was the conversations like so far with your new teammates at the moment? And can Sibukazi also mention, are you guys traveling in one group, as test group, or both test and T20 group?
Sorry, Percy, you're taking us a lot of questions there. I'll go first in terms of the first couple of questions in terms of logistics. The test team will be traveling first, and then will be followed by the T20 squad, which will arrive before the test series ends to begin their quarantine. I will arrange an official vaccine statement from Cricket South Africa. And Dean's question, if you can repeat it again, please, Percy, because there was quite a lot that needed to be answered.
I apologize, Dean. It's just I usually only get one bite of this cherry. So, Dean, I'm going to ask you again as captain. As the captain,
one question. It's just we need to be given the opportunity to actually answer.
Fair enough. I apologize.
No worries. Fire away.
Captain, can I ask you, just like I said, you mentioned you're hoping to get the buy-in from your players in the squad, and you've got a lot of experience in the squad, leadership in the squad as well. What was the conversations like so far? And have you guys had any training sessions this past week in South Africa?
So as a group, we only got together yesterday for our day one of our camp. I know building up to this camp, the guys within the squads have been training with their franchises. So they have had facilities and access to prepare in their respective cities where they're based. On the buy-in process, I mean, we had a great chat last night where I kind of mapped out the way I see us going forward, and we created quite a good conversation around that. I think those conversations are still going to continue because the more we communicate it as a group, I think the more the buy-in will be there. And maybe the buy-in will be quicker, and guys will actually realize that, okay, maybe Dean does have maybe he does have a bit of sense in him, and we need to obviously follow the kind of process that I see, the kind of processes that Bouchy sees as well. So yeah, we had a very, very good constructive communication conversation yesterday, which I think will still, as I mentioned, would still continue over the next few weeks.
Yeah, we'll do these last questions that have been requested on the chat group, so we won't be taking any others. We'll go with Stephen, followed by Leighton, and then Fidos to close us off. Stephen?
Dean, a lot of players coming back from the UK and being part of the provincial setup next season, which is going to be great for the local stuff. But also a lot of players suddenly who've got test experience potentially going to be eligible for selection for the Proteas. Do you think that's something that some of the players are not quite aware of, the fact that maybe their spots are going to be a lot harder to keep, and maybe add a little bit of added motivation going into the series? Well,
I mean, we'll obviously have the best players in the respective positions if they deserve it. I think the players coming back now is going to definitely improve and strengthen our domestic game. And ultimately, I think it's going to add a lot of competitive competition within our system, which I think we've maybe lacked over the past few years. So I see it as a massive positive for those guys coming back. And I'm pretty sure if they knocking on the door, maybe breaking the door down, it's a great thing for the current guys in the squads to maybe get a little firecracker, and maybe try and push them and ultimately motivate their game in a good way. So I see it as a very healthy kind of competition going forward. I think it would be silly if we wouldn't allow those guys to be eligible for selection, because they've ultimately come back and they've gained so much experience playing in the UK. And now I think they're going to boost our domestic game, which ultimately I think is going to filter into our national setup.
Leighton?
Dean, Keshav aside, very green spinning department that you have there in terms of Test cricket. Are you a bit wary that you can go into a spinning competition with the Windies a bit undercooked?
I think one thing that COVID has done good for cricket is that you have your extended squads now. And I think you can tick nearly all the boxes when it comes to covering all your bases, whether it's adding more batsmen, whether it's adding more seamers or more spinners. I think it's the first time ever that we're touring with 4 spinners, and it's a massive luxury for myself as captain, and I think as a squad, it's a big luxury for us. Obviously, we don't know what the conditions are going to be. We're going to obviously have to assess it when we get there and adapt accordingly. So yeah, having more armory, I would say, with regards to spin bowling, is a big positive for us going into this test, this test series, especially because we're not too familiar of the conditions, and I'd rather have too many players there than too little.
And finally, Firdous.
Dean, I realize obviously you've still got to get there and look at things and see kind of what type of team you want to play, but just in terms of the batting with Faf not around anymore, what are you thinking in terms of a combination there, and where are we likely to see someone like a Quinton de Kock?
I think Quinny will be pretty much in his position that he's been for us for quite some time now. We look him at probably at number 5 or 6. I would think Quinny's maybe going to be best suited at number 6 for us. Without Faf there, I think a guy like Keegan Peterson comes into the mix now. I think he's been waiting quite some time now on the sidelines, and I mean, there's a massive opportunity for him now if he gets selected, that he needs to obviously take his opportunity when it comes. And I mean, there's a lot of room for him to try and make an impact in our batting lineup. He's got a few years under his belt now domestically, and he's scored quite a lot of runs in the past few seasons, which is good for us. We know that he's a seasoned campaigner, quite experienced in the domestic game. He's got a good energy, good attitude, and he brings a different kind of dynamic to our lineup. So yeah, I think that's pretty much where I would see the Faf position being replaced, and I think that's where Quinny will be best suited for us.
Thanks everybody for your questions. Just to also let you know, Enoch Ngwe has taken personal responsibility or family responsibility leave, I apologize, and will not be joining the team for the test series, but he will be joining the team for the white ball leg of the tour. We will have Titans or Northerns head coach Mandla Mashindi joining us in the assistant coach capacity. And I will have that statement on the vaccine on your guys' inboxes as soon as possible. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.